Imagine this. Two best friends move halfway across the world, from the Philippines to Doha, both just looking for a better life. But then one of them stumbles upon a secret fortune, and the other finds a reason to kill. This is the really tragic story of a friendship that was completely torn apart by what seemed like a single golden ticket.
So let's set the scene. It's March 22nd, 2024. In an alley behind a pretty ordinary apartment building, the body of a young Filipino woman, Reyna Delgado, is found. And if you look up, 4 floors up, the curtains on her balcony are just billowing in the hot breeze, almost like little flags of surrender.
At first, the story seemed tragically familiar. You know, Reyna's roommate and best friend, a woman named Joy, told the police that Reyna had been completely devastated over a recent breakup. And honestly, it was a plausible story. It fit a known pattern of the loneliness and intense pressure that so many overseas workers face.
But here's the thing. That wasn't even close to the whole story. The real truth was hidden away in designer bags, in secret bank transfers, and most of all, in the jealous eyes of the one person Reyna trusted more than anyone. Which really makes you wonder what actually pushed Reyna Delgado off that balcony.
To really get what happened here, we've got to go back to the beginning of their friendship. How did Reyna Delgado and Joy Marcigan become so close they were basically sisters? I mean, just look at their backgrounds. Their lives were running on these perfectly parallel tracks. Both came from provinces in the Philippines, both were carrying this immense burden of supporting their families back home, and both saw Doha as their one and only hope. They were absolute equals in their struggle, tied together by the exact same kind of desperation. They actually met during a lunch break at the mall where they both worked. They bonded over packed lunches of cold rice, which, is pretty much the universal sign of an overseas worker trying to count every single coin. It wasn't long before they became roommates, and they managed to create this little piece of home in a totally foreign land. Joy even told investigators later, "We weren't roommates, we were sisters."
And for almost 2 years, that sisterhood was real. I mean, they were a team, just trying to survive together. But equality can be a fragile thing, and in June of 2023, Reyna Delgado found her golden ticket.
So how did it happen? It started with a customer at her cosmetics counter, a very wealthy married Qatari sheikh named Rumi Al Mansour. What started out as just conversations about perfume, it blossomed into this secret companionship. He wasn't just buying products anymore. He was buying her time, her honesty, her attention. And he paid very, very handsomely for it.
And we're not just talking about a little extra cash here. The scale of this was just massive. In a single month, Rumi might give Reyna something like 20,000 Qatari riyals. To put that in perspective, that's over 5,000 US dollars, way more than she'd make in a year back home. Her life was changing in ways she probably couldn't have even imagined.
And this, right here, is where you start to see this huge gap open up between them. Because while Reyna was getting these life-changing gifts, Joy was facing an impossible debt. Her mother's cancer treatment back in the Philippines was going to cost over 1.2 million pesos. That's $21,000. It was a sum she had absolutely no hope of ever earning, even if she worked double shifts for years.
So Reyna kept her new life a secret. And in that silence, Joy's own desperation just started to curdle into suspicion. And then, obsession. She started watching her, listening, and she started taking notes.
The evidence just started piling up, piece by painful piece. First, it was the late nights and the whispered phone calls. Then, a shocking discovery, wads of cash. Then, a designer bag she knew for a fact Reyna could never afford. And then finally, she heard a name on a call, Rumi. The picture was becoming crystal clear, and the sheer unfairness of it all just started to eat her alive.
And we get this raw, unfiltered look inside her head from her own journal. On February 5th, she just wrote, "This not fair," over and over and over again. It's like a portrait of a woman who's drowning in resentment, watching her sister escape the very same struggle that was literally killing her own family.
And then, the night before Reyna's death, you can see that resentment harden into a plan. "Tomorrow," she wrote, "I'm going to even the scales." This wasn't just jealousy anymore. This was a promise. This was a plan of action.
Joy's plan was pretty simple, really. If she couldn't get her own golden ticket, then she was going to demand a tax on Reyna's, and all she needed was the proof.
So, she set a trap. She'd overheard that Rumi was going to visit while she was supposedly working a double shift. So Joy told Reyna she'd be gone all day,
But instead, she just waited at a cafe nearby, her phone ready, preparing for the confrontation that was about to change absolutely everything.
What happened next? It was all over in just 47 seconds. Joy bursts in, her phone recording everything. She demands 200,000 rials, the price of her silence, the price of her mother's life. Rumi, he quickly agreed, but Reina refused. "Sisters, don't do this," she cried out. A struggle for the phone started, and it spilled out onto that tiny balcony. And in one final, desperate act, Joy shoved Reina. And, just like that, she was gone.
As sirens started wailing in the distance, Rumi delivered his parting words. He was a married man, a powerful man. He was not going to be a part of this. And with that, he was gone, leaving Joy completely alone to face the consequences of what she had just done.
So in those few minutes that followed, Joy made a choice. She decided she was going to stage a suicide. She hid the evidence, and she built a story she hoped would save her. And you know what? It almost worked.
But a really sharp-eyed detective started to notice the cracks, little inconsistencies in her timeline, security footage of some mystery visitor, deleted messages on the phone, and, the most damning thing of all, her journal. That entry about evening the scales, well, that was the final nail in the coffin. 9 days after Reina's death, Joy confessed to everything.
And when you look at the final outcome, for everyone involved, it's just a gut punch. Reina was dead. Joy was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Sheikh Rumi, the man at the very center of it all, never charged. And in the absolute cruelest twist of fate, after the story went viral, a crowdfunding campaign raised more than enough money to save Joy's mother. The help that Joy killed for. It came anyway, but only after it was far, far too late.
So, what are we supposed to take away from this? This story isn't just about a murder. It's about what happens when total desperation crashes into opportunity, and how easily a sisterhood can just collapse under the weight of secrets and envy. In the end, 2 women left home looking for a better life. Now one of them is in a grave, and the other is in a cell. That golden ticket promised salvation, but it was just an illusion. It was never gold at all. It was just paper, and paper burns.